Hi boys and girls, this is Algebra Readiness number 3. We're going to discuss decimals and percentages and positive and negative numbers. So let's get to it. We are trying to figure out if you are ready to move on to algebra. If you've missed the first 2 videos, please go back, do the problems with me as we go. This is number 3. So to change a percentage to a decimal, you move the decimal place 2 places to the left. So this is 6%. If I want to work with 6% as a decimal, I'm going to move the decimal place 2 places to the left, which is going to give me 0.06. So now I can multiply that. I can use that in whichever way I want. If I have a decimal and I want to turn it into a percentage, I just move the decimal 2 places to the right and I get 6%. So here I have 45%. If I want to write that as a decimal, I move it 2 places to the left, I get 0.45. That's something you want to know as you're going into algebra. What if I have a fraction, 6/10, and I want to change that into a percentage? Well, I can do that a couple of ways. I know that 6/10 written as a decimal is putting 6 in the 10th place. You know, there's the 10th place, hundredths place, thousandths place. So this is the 6, this is 6/10, or 60 hundredths, or 600 thousandths, however you want to look at it. So when I have 6/10 and I want to change that into a percentage, I just move my decimal 2 places to the right. So that would be 60%. See, they're all interchangeable. Fractions, decimals, percentages, they all have a connection. Let's try this. Okay, 1/4. Okay, so 1/4 is a decimal. You're like, Well, you can think 1/4 of a dollar. How many cents is that? Okay, if you can't figure that out, do it this way. 4 into 100, because 100 is our percentage basis. 4 goes into 125 times. 25 times 1. So this is going to be 25%. 25%. Okay. If I wanted to write 25% as a decimal, I could move the decimal back. So as you can see, percentages and fractions and decimals are all connected. They are all related, and you can write them depending on how you need to do that. But it's good to know those when you are working with some of these algebra problems that my Algebra 1 kids have been working with. If they know these tricks of the trade, then they're not going to have as much trouble when they need to make everything the same before they add or subtract. All right, I'm going to erase all of that and move on to positive and negative numbers. So let's look at this. I have a -7, and I want to add that to a -24. And what am I going to get when I do that? So think of a number line, this being 0, this being my positive numbers, on and on and on, this being my negative. So we're going to say negative. Over here we have positive. So if I start with -7, that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so -7, and then want to add 24 more negative numbers, well, I'm going to end all the way up down here. So I'm going to have a pretty big number. So I'm going to add the 24 and the 7, and I get what, 31? Okay, but I know because I'm adding negative numbers, I'm going to have a negative 31. It's not going to be positive. This is a negative 31. Negative 7 plus negative 24 is going to give me a negative 31. All right, let's do another one. Let's say we have a positive 10 minus a negative 5. Okay. So you're like, all right. So if I start with 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, start down here. And then I want to subtract a negative 5. And I'm like, a negative of a negative. Well, if you have listened to me enough, you know that when you have two negatives side by side, that is a positive. It's a positive. So this is actually 10 plus 5. Got these two negatives. Looks like a little face, doesn't it? I can put a little nose there. Give him a hair. Oh, okay, I need to stop. All right, stop, Michelle. I think I've been doing this too much today. So two negatives make a positive. So this is 10 plus 5, which is going to equal 15. If I had 10 plus negative 5, I'd start at 10 and then I'd go back 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'd end up with a positive 5. What if I am multiplying negative 6 times negative 14? What does that equal? Well, now we have to learn some rules about negative and positive. So I will tell you that when you're adding or subtracting negative and positive numbers, what you do is you usually you subtract, find the difference, and the bigger number will get the sign. For example, 8 plus negative 44. Okay, I'm going to subtract those, and then I'm going to have the answer is going to be a negative. If I have negative 8 plus 44, I'm going to subtract them, but because the biggest number is positive, the answer will be positive. Let me say that again. If I have 8 plus a negative 44, I'm subtracting them, but the biggest number gets the sign. So the answer is going to be negative. But what if the 8 is negative? If I have negative 8 plus a positive 44, I'm going to subtract them, but because the 44 is positive this time, the answer is going to be positive. So that's how you do adding and subtracting. But when you have multiplication, so if you have a negative times a negative, your answer will be positive. If you have a negative times a positive, your answer will be negative. Or positive times negative, also negative. Interestingly enough, if you have positive times a positive, it remains a positive. All right, so negative and negative will give you a positive. Positive times positive will give you a positive. But if you have one of each, you're always going to get a negative. So let's look back at our problem. We have a negative 6 times a negative 14. That's 84. Now, there are two negative numbers. So negative and negative is a positive 84. If I made one negative and one positive, well, then that would be a negative 84. Okay? If I made this one positive and this one negative, positive, negative, I would have a negative 84. And if I made them both positive, I would have a positive 84. So that's how you do multiplication with negative and positive numbers. Division is the same. Division is the same. So for example, I've had negative 36 times 9. Okay? Divided. We're doing division now. So 36 divided by 9, we know is 4. If both of them were negative, I would have a positive 4. If both of those were positive, I would have a positive 4. If one is negative times a positive, the answer will be negative, positive, negative. And if I made this positive and this negative, once again, my answer would be negative. So multiplication and division are very similar. So when you're multiplying or dividing, negative and negative gives you positive, positive, positive gives you positive. And if you have one of each, your answer will be negative. So that is basically how we do that. I am going to save exponents to the next time. So see you then. Bye.